Hi, everyone. This is Aaron Myers at Ishmael Interactive, and I am joined by CEO Anna Monroe. And today we'll be talking about contract measures. This is a part of our series where we have talked about our first response to a solicitation and the FAR 10 overhaul, which was just recently executed. Anna
Yep.
is somebody who has been working in complex measurement for over a decade now. I am a former core COTAR. It goes by many names, but I have worked in the contracting world for a long, long time, nearly a decade myself, before I found a space in HCD and complex measures myself.
Absolutely. Yes. I do just want to unfurl those acronyms, delightfully
Yes.
governmental acronyms for people. So a core
Thank
is
you.
a contracting officer representative. Am I right there? And a
Yes.
COTAR, the contracting officer's technical representative. And all that
Yes.
means, really, is that Aaron has had to look at every single piece of the business requirements from the government, every single piece of private companies' like response to those requirements, and be like, does this make sense here? And if you have listened to or read the article attached to our conversation about our first federal response, you will understand that's a huge job, and I'm so glad I've never had it. So, Aaron, why don't you tell us what did you do? What happens with the core in a Kotar?
Yeah. So that is an excellent question. Core COTAR, same thing. The
Okay.
government likes to change titles and acronyms every once in a while. Keeps things fresh, I guess. I don't know. It's
I mean,
it's
fresh
yeah,
and government are not associated in my mind, but sure, let's go
true.
with that.
True.
Fresh. Yeah.
So in order to contract with the government, you need people who are really good at the legalities because there are so many rules to keep it fair and efficient and a good cost to the taxpayer. That's not what a core or COTAR does.
Oh,
You also
okay.
need experts in the work that is actually getting done. So if you are building a web page to lease cars, something the government does all the time, you need somebody who understands that business, what that application needs to do, what kind of throughput it needs, where the cars are, where they're sourcing the cars, the person who's going to make the requirements. That's also not me.
Okay.
The core is the person between the two who's going to convey to the people who are doing the work what the contracting officer, the person who holds the legal position with all the contracts,
Got it.
needs in order to have their requirements executed in a way that is legal and to convey to that contracting officer what those requirements are so it can be done in a way that is efficient.
So you're a translation layer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That sounds awful. I'm not going to lie. That sounds so hard. So you're not an expert in the
No.
legalities of contracts, nor are you an expert in the thing that's getting done, whether it's like building a website to lease cars or like, I don't know, like build, I always love thinking about the lighthouses around the world the United States happens to own weird. Um, so you have to translate legal into thing that happens and you have to be like, is thing that happens legal? Is that what
Yes.
you do?
Yes.
Great.
So it's actually a very service design oriented job because you were sitting right between where two functions meet.
Yeah. But they can't
So,
talk to each other because tell me why.
well, they can't talk to each other because each of their jobs are functionally and realistically too big to talk to each other without a translation layer and it's
Oh.
efficient.
It's a classic like specialty niche issue where these
Absolutely.
two groups have niche down so far they have nothing to talk about. They just like
E-
never
exactly.
got
So
it.
I would
Well,
probably get half expertise in each one to do a little translating. I used to take classes in appropriation law, for example. I also took classes in GIS because that was one of the contracts that I was helping to handle, and I wanted to understand the requirements.
tell us what GIS is.
Uh, Geographic informational systems. So it's data on map, basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
mapping. That does seem to be something that countries care about. Mapping.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
But the measures get incredibly complex because when you are sitting in the middle, you have sort of your hand in each pot, but there's a lot of variation between from Kotar to Kotar or core to core in terms of how in each camp you are.
Yeah. And that would make sense because it also depends on the orientation of the role of the contracting officer, the CO, and
Yes.
also the contractor and like the proprietary nature of their work or whatever it is, I guess.
Yes. So
Yeah.
when you do that, you have some measures that are sort of ever present. They're things that everybody does. And that's just because they are tied to the centralized duties of the Corps.
Got
Things
it.
that every Corps will have to do no matter what that variation is. An example is almost every Corps I know who does their job keeps track of what their utilized ceiling is. And
What's a
yes,
utilized ceiling? I
yes,
feel like this entire conversation is just like you telling me what acronyms and jargon means. But cool, let's do
it,
it. What's utilized
it,
ceiling?
it helps. So when you
Yeah.
do a contract, you put a maximum amount of dollars that that contract might represent. You
Okay.
don't know you're going to use all those dollars, but you know that there is a maximum because you can't just give somebody a blank check.
Yeah, but if you're the contractor, I bet you know you're going to use all those dollars, is my guess. Maybe I'm a cynic.
Hopefully, there are a lot of things out of the contractor's hand that could prevent them from doing that.
Okay, maybe that's another podcast then, because that's very interesting.
Yes. So, for example, all government money has a time span in which it's good for, and it is not
Okay.
consistent. Some money you have to use within 1 year, some money you have to use within 2 years, some money lasts forever.
Oh my God.
Yes. So, a core, when they put the funding or send the funding to be on the contract, they have to talk to the people who are doing the work to make sure that the time frame of the money fits the burn rate that they are looking at.
Oh, yeah, totally. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you have 1 year money, but like I'm speaking from the contractor side, okay? Because like when I was in the lab at OPM, we were feds, but we were hired essentially as contractors, and we were always
Mm-hmm.
talking about burn rate and stuff. So if you've got a 1 year money and you keep encountering like kind of logistical issues like where you're going to go out and do customer research in the field, but like the field locations are somebody's on vacation, another one like has renovation, whatever it is, you keep on trying to find a place to go do this research and you keep on getting stuff back from it through nobody's fault. You might not be meeting that burn rate, and that's a problem for you,
Everyone.
or is that a problem for the core, or does the core not care? Like, is the burn
It's
rate important to everybody?
it should be important to everyone. If it's
Okay.
not, that's a red flag. It's important because if you don't spend that 1 year money by the time that year is done in its entirety, that money becomes non-touchable.
It goes
Which
back to treasury, in
uh,
my understanding.
after a few years, yes, it sort of sits there. It sits there because the agency could do things like if there are old obligations that are years and years and years old, they could take the money that was good in that time period, take it off that contract, and pay that other obligation with it.
Why would that obligation not have been paid? Is my concern here.
All sorts of reasons are possible.
Okay.
Late billing happens. It's rare,
Oh
but
yeah,
it occurs. Sometimes the payment structure, it's rare, but sometimes the payment structure on a contract is just takes a while.
you got to make sure the
Um,
lighthouse doesn't fall down. You contracted for a lighthouse. Lighthouse
yeah,
falls down. That's good. Yeah.
I've seen a contractor submit their valid bill to the wrong address for 3 years straight, and
Somebody got fired.
they were told, they were informed at length, and they just couldn't get it right. But that bill is still good, and once it goes to the right place, we need that old money to pay it. We can't pay it with current
Oh,
money.
I thought. I mean, I think I just had like a heart murmur.
Yeah,
Like, I can't believe anyone would do that. But okay, great, crazy
yeah.
stories from government contracting.
So the contractor needs to make sure they can get that money.
Mm,
The government side, the people who are doing the programmatic work, want to make sure that that money is spent because they're trying to get work done. The
right.
core, as the person watching this, has their reputation on the line.
Yeah.
And the everybody is incentivized to make the CO, the contracting officer, happy, because if they don't have a good sense of what that yearly burn is going to be, they might have to end up in a position where they are asking the contracting officer to take money off of this year, put money on that year, and shift things around to keep it all flowing, which is A, not always possible, and B, in most government systems, takes a ton of work.
Yeah. It also just makes everyone look incompetent.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
for example, back when I used to do this, I had a rule where I had zero contracts with a period of performance that would end or begin within the first 2 or the last 2 months of the year.
Oh, smart. Yep.
Because when that money's about to go up, I want to make sure I catch the contracting officer when they actually have time. In
Yeah.
September,
Totally.
they don't have time.
You don't do anything in September
Exactly.
in the federal government except get out of people's way. That's your job. Get out of people's way.
Yep. So utilize ceiling. Are you using your money well?
Got
On
it.
time payment, almost nobody has a fault tolerance for on time payment. Your payments have to be on time.
Yeah.
And this can get tricky because sometimes your core is somebody who is very good at managing the contract process, but doesn't actually understand the work that's being done. And they
Totally.
have to have a tight dialogue with those people to make sure that the work was good before they pay it.
Right.
In one instance, I actually took a DHS training, a full training in 508 compliance because I couldn't get a timely
Yep.
answer on if this 508 work was good. And I wanted to know that I was paying good bills.
So suddenly you had to become like a demi expert on 508s so that you could look at the contractor's work and tell your contracting officer this is good or not so that they would release the funds appropriately. Because if, and I was adjacent to one of these, if a situation happens where a contractor is paid for work that is found to be, in this case, not 508 compliant, and my adjacency was also 508, funnily enough, very hard to get right, I think, 508.
Yeah.
You have to claw back the money, and that takes years. Oh, it's such a pain
Yeah.
in the butt. So you really want to avoid that.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
really, really want to do. It's
yeah,
the worst.
the worst.
It really is. Work stoppages. Work stoppages can and do happen, and
Like a
they
government
are
shutdown, or like, are we talking about other things?
like you have to tell your contractor, stop work. Don't do
Whoa.
anything right now.
But why? Why would that? I mean, apart from a government shutdown, what are the circumstances that would lead to a work stoppage?
Apart from a government shutdown, you have to have the money on the contract for the right purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't time that action well, they are not allowed to do that work until it's there.
Mm, that's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even just money on the contract, it has to be money that has been written in with purpose that you want them to do.
Right, because we have to know why the money is being
Right. You can't
spent.
spend O&M
Yeah.
money on R&D. It doesn't work that way.
This
So,
is what they talk about when they're
yeah.
talking about colors of money.
Yes. That is
Yes.
one of those aspects, yes.
Right. Yeah.
So, that is sort of the stuff that everyone does. Or everybody should be doing. There's a few
Right.
other measures that we've already talked about in the context of these, like burn rate, for example, but there's a core set. That's true. And then there's the things that are not unheard of, but they're rare.
And you're talking about like the bars of like what a Cora Kotar does. Like
Yeah,
what are the benchmark measures by which you know you're doing,
a good
the good
job.
job or like
Yeah,
the not as good job. Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
This set of measures I will put in context as if you are not doing these, you want to get to a point, if possible, where you are doing these.
Okay.
Because they are tied to what the program does, what is the work that is happening. And if you are not doing these because you can't do these, you might be a little too siloed in that core function.
Wait,
So
wait, wait. you might be a little too siloed in like the core function of being a core or the core function of being a kotar or the core function of what's the core function?
So again, core Kotar, same thing. You might be a little
Right.
too siloed in being an expert of contracts, but not enough in what is the value that the contract is delivering. That would be a
Got
better
it.
way for me to put it.
Okay.
So one thing that you can do is programmatic value. Does it make
This
the,
is big.
yes, huge,
Yeah.
huge. Does it make the program better in some way? So
That has to come from the program office though. Like how can you have any effect on that as even the CEO, much less the core?
so as the core, there are several ways you can have an effect on that. You are
Okay.
managing the process of even the writing of the statement of work and managing the
Oh, okay.
evaluation of the contracts that are of the proposals that are competing.
Okay.
You are still communicating between everybody about when they need the flow of which money for what purpose. And very often that comes down to game time decisions of where are we going to try to achieve value.
Got it. And you can very easily have conversations about value when talking about money because
Yes.
money has inherent value. So suddenly, if you can assign programmatic value to that money, which I think theoretically is what's always supposed to be happening, but we know doesn't happen.
Yes.
Lots of times, like the value of money is like misallocated to like concrete step by step things that are like actually disassociated from programmatic value. Um, but if you can like actually align those things, then yeah, you can like reasonably say we're pushing forward programmatic value. Got it.
So I'll give you a practical example, which I think would be great for the audience. Let's look at the example of help desk.
Mm-hmm.
A help desk contract can come in two flavors. It can come in what people do on the telephone. It could come in what people do on a web page.
Sure.
If I am managing those contracts, and ideally I would be managing both contracts, I would have them roughly aligned to the same period of performance. I would have measures on both the throughput, how many tickets they handle, and
Right.
how much time it saves users in the system aligned to both. That
Mm-hmm.
way, because the the web page and the telephone are in a way kind of competing with each other. You want to push people towards what works best.
Right.
So I want to make sure that I have the information built into the contract, what the contractor has to do, and the money that the contractor could spend on that activity to make sure that the delivery of that work is the best value we can achieve for the government.
All right. I have like several quibbles with this logic, but
Absolutely.
I think it's because I like know way too much about like help desk. So if you have somebody on the phone, okay, first
Yes.
of all, your tooling has to be equal in order to say that they are competing with each other. So hypothetically, let's take as an example, you have a chatbot on a web interface and you have a like machine learning AI, whatever agent
Uh
on
huh.
the phone. That's the only way we can like make this equivalent.
Apple to apples. Yeah.
Right. Because if you have a phone person, like an actual person on the phone, and you have an actual person in a chat interface, that chat interface person can be talking to three different people, even if they're a human, much less if they're an AI. So you can't actually compare things when there's an asymmetrical tooling. So the tooling would have to be the same. Also, the nature of the help desk calls, and I would have to look into the history of like how do people do help desk stuff, like you kind of do the phone call or the chat interface depending on the nature of the issue. Speaking only as myself, as a user myself, if something is like very complicated, I tend to call, and high stakes, I tend to want to call.
Yes.
If something is lower stakes, I'll chat. And that's weird because you can get a record of the chat and it's harder to get a record of a phone call. So maybe that's just like dating me, and Gen Zs would never do that. I don't know. Again, we'd have to look at it. But like people go to these portals for different reasons. So my point is these measures get really complex really fast when you're looking for programmatic value. And you
Yes.
have two different pathways to creating that value. Am I
Right.
wrong?
You are not wrong. You are not wrong at all. And the thing that I will say about that is you are at some point going to have to justify both.
Yeah.
And in order to justify both, you need the measures, the feedback, and the input to say what would happen if one did not exist.
Got it. No, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, making that measurement instrument would be really interesting. I would actually
Yes.
love to make a measurement instrument for a help desk that has like two different portals.
Yeah.
Also, like just for the record, if we hypothetically set up a help desk where you're like, look, you can just send an email written however you want to someone and the resolution came back faster, people would do that. No one cares about the pathway to resolution.
No.
They just want it. And if you could
Just an
100%
answer.
guarantee a faster resolution through any portal, even like just a simple email, people wouldn't care.
Yes, absolutely. So another measure is return on investment, which you can't always do, but it is common or at least more common in modernization projects. So you
Mm-hmm.
would see
Mm-hmm.
it if you're taking a big tech stack and you're moving things to the cloud, you're updating what the document management system is. You would say, if we had kept on as we were doing, it's going to be $10 million a year. Modernizing this, it's going to go 12 million, but then it's going to go to 10, then 8, then 7, then 6, then 5, then
Sure.
4. So you could project out what a savings to the government would be. And then you're tracking the actual costs as it goes through the contract to see if that happens, because that will reflect on both the contractor and on the management of the money.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the more complex part, the stuff that I used to do, glutton for punishment, you know,
Okay.
the measures that I wish happened everywhere, and sometimes I would do them when I could, sometimes I couldn't. It really depends, but there's a collection of wish list measures, things I wish people would do more often.
Okay.
One of them is the rate at which you can replace contract functions with trained in-house employees.
Whoa. Wait. Hold please.
Hmm.
What you're telling me
I
right now is
stand
that
by it.
what you want to do, you stand by, it's never happening. What you want to do is say, okay, we brought you on this contractor on to this contract for like X skill set or whatever, but we have now hired, enough practitioners in X skill set, and so now we can like just retire you away contractors and get these new feds. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh, got it. Okay.
because I'm not looking to retire their entire thing.
Okay.
What I am doing is I am looking at a carve out, a section, a function, a thing, ideally something they don't have a ton of interest in doing themselves, and
Okay.
something that is relatively predictable. I know I will spend X dollars a year on this. 508 work again as an example. I know I will spend $10,000 a year on this. If I can eliminate their more certain expenses with in house work, I create safety margin with their uncertain expenses.
Oh, you have, that is smart, because what you've just done now is, if I am playing the role of contractor, you've made me feel good.
Yeah,
Suddenly we have 10,000 extra dollars to kind of spend towards this stuff we're not sure we can pull off with the current staffing, because you've brought in $10,000 worth of, in our case, 508 people.
yeah.
I don't think that's going to fly though, because I don't think anyone would ever do that, right? Because they want the certainty of getting that $10,000 of like stuff they know how to do. And the uncertainty is going to go to a modification. Like that's I mean, again, am I being cynical? Yes, but I think I'm right.
Well, you're being right. However, the odds of it flying go up as the contract ages and they run into more, oh my God, that's more expensive than I thought it was moments.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, as a contractor, if I saw my core doing this, I would thank them, because I'd be like, yeah, because I know like Murphy's Law happens. Murphy's Law is that, like, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Like, I have worked and run my own business for for like over a decade before I joined the federal service. Things go wrong is
Yeah,
what I'm here to tell everyone.
every
Like,
time. Every
I
time.
my number one for everyone, whenever somebody's like, how much did I budget for this? I'm like, add up your budget and then you add 33%. If I were doing a contract that was over a year long, I'd add 50%.
Yeah, wise.
And yeah, you just have to. And maybe that means you're not the lowest bid. Maybe that means you don't get the bid. But what I don't want is to be in a situation where I have to pay out and
Hmm.
I need that $10,000 of uncertainty money. Like, that's just me. I would rather have too much money rather than too little
Yeah.
because I don't like to cut corners. So
So another measure nobody does, it's super simple. Contractor satisfaction.
what?
Every contractor I sat down with once a year, I would put them in a meeting, give them an interview to make sure they are happy. I would have them write out, I would ask them, give them the option to write out a one pager of ways in which I can show they have done good work.
Okay.
Nobody does this, but they're still people. If you want people's best work, they have to be happy.
That's true. I mean, treating a contractor like a human seems revolutionary, and I feel bad for myself that that's how it feels. Because
Yeah,
that's true. A lot of times people are like, well, and I remember this even being at the lab and like working with other agencies. I definitely was in a few meetings where people yelled at me and essentially said, well, I've hired you. Now you have to do what I say. And because I specialize in pissing people off, I would say, you've hired me for my skills, and this is my advice. You don't have to take it,
right.
but I don't have to do what you say if I know it's wrong.
Now,
So,
mhm.
yeah, you're
The
right.
advice I would give to any core at all, the most important thing you can do in your job, and I would do this 100% of the time. The first time you meet with your contractor, make it clear a part of your job is to get work out of them that you can be enlisted in defending it up the chain of management.
Oh, for sure. You have to have that because in the end, like, you also might be in this line of fire.
Well, one, people don't say it. And
Oh,
this doesn't happen all the time. And two, the second your contractor is attacked and you aren't in a position to put your own name in there, you have lost their faith.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the last two, and these are truly my last two, are
Okay.
reductions in contractor meetings and reductions in federal meetings.
Okay.
Meetings should drop down if you are managing your contractor well.
Yeah, because you trust that the work's getting done, right?
Well, your trust that the work's getting done, the contractor is acclimating and getting better at the work, so they need fewer people there. And because they need fewer people there, you don't have to have as much oversight and strategy going into what are they producing.
Yeah.
If you are not having fewer meetings and fewer people in the room, that's just one of those red flags that says, I bet we're missing something in how well we manage this contract.
Oh man, no, I can think of an actual contract where this is completely true. I'm not going to tell you which one it was because I feel like that's probably inappropriate, but like,
Right.
yep, no, you're right. That's a good measure.
Yeah, it's huge.
So, okay, so we're looking at this group of measurements. We have six in total. We have two that like are kind of rare, and then we have four that nobody does that you did and love to do and are best practice. As a basket of measures, I would say these are excellent. So we have programmatic value measures, we have return on investment. The problem with those, I'll tell you, is that they are rather dependent on a lot of other factors. Now, you say
Absolutely.
like it's quite easy to get the value thing from the business lines. I know you have to been in situations where like actually working with a business line is kind of hard, whatever, personality driven, lots of busy work, blah blah blah. So these two are hard, and return on
Oh,
investment is hard because it's
yeah.
future, right?
Don't get me wrong. They're not easy to get. I'm saying you should
Yeah.
try.
Okay. So
Yes.
those for me, if I were making like a measurement instrument to understand a contract, I would actually make these two their own indices. And
Yes.
and that's a big ask, and I would have to work out how to make sure this remains at the human level because of course, as we know, measurement instruments aren't useful if humans can't hold them all in their head at the same time. Like if you need an
Correct.
AI to navigate your measurement instrument, you have failed. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You need to be able to like have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
So, but those are fine. So we'll put those, we'll say yes to those and put them in their own indices. Okay. Return on investment can go to programmatic value. So it's one index, right? I'll just
Right.
call it the value index overall.
Hmm.
So then no one does this stuff. You got how fast can you take away the certain work and give it to feds versus and so you can have more money for the uncertain work. So that's like an uncertainty measure. That's interesting. Contractor satisfaction, this is like a performance index. So I think we'd have to take that one out and put it in its own indices as well. Maybe I'm gonna reserve that for a second.
Yeah.
And then the meetings, I think that's great. That's a very simple measure and it goes down. So let's pair it with something else that goes down. And I would pair that as part of I would actually put that as a support to the uncertainty index.
Yeah.
So that if we can widen out the uncertainty index to include the rate at which you like make concrete that which was formerly uncertain, in our case the 508 compliance piece, and you compare that with a reduction in meetings, you're on the right track. Number goes down and that's good. We're playing golf. For contractor satisfaction, yeah, I would keep that as actually, do you know what, I would put that in the overall value index because a satisfied contractor,
Hmm.
to your earlier point, is providing better value to the business
Every time.
because they are getting, more work out of it. And they can even like volunteer ideas, right? If they're like elbow deep in the work, sometimes people have
Hmm.
great ideas. So I would actually make this, yeah, an uncertainty index and a value index. And you want the uncertainty index to be going down with the
Hmm.
value index to be
To
going
be going
up.
up.
Then I think you've got a really good understanding of how the contract's going.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's my like I've just
Just
heard you talk for however long and like guess.
off the wall. Yeah.
Yeah,
Construct it together. Absolutely. It makes sense to me because as your contract becomes, as you put more money into the certainty, your meetings can also go down. So
yeah,
uncertainty goes down, meetings go down. It's same direction. It all works that way. Your happy contractors do volunteer more ideas, and you got them because you
yeah,
know they know things you don't. So the more ideas they volunteer,
right.
generally, the better you're going to do. You want them to be encouraged to volunteer ideas.
Yeah, I like this. And so we kind of have this like two-part like health index of the contract.
Yes,
That value one would need a lot of work, but I'm not gonna like
absolutely.
diminish that one.
Yeah,
But yeah, that would be super cool. I'd build that thing. Would you build that thing?
I would love to build that thing.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. I didn't
Thank
know.
you.
I honestly like measuring contracts is something that I've always really measuring the effectiveness of contracts, something I've always really wanted to. I never got an opportunity, but like, maybe in the future.
Thank you. No, it seems very exciting. There's a lot of room there, and it's one of those areas people don't think about until they're neck deep in it.
No, there's a solidity to contracts that is like completely a mirage. People are
Yeah,
like, well, the business requirements say this. And it's like every piece of a business requirement is typically interpretable.
yeah,
And, there's just like very few
absolutely.
things in the world that are literally literal, that are literally binary. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it would be better to kind of measure these along like indices and treat them with complexity rather than be like, it is or is not, which is just untrue.
So from us here at Ishmael Interactive, it's been a great discussion, and I think we would love to build that thing.
Just love to
Thank
build
you.
that thing. All right.